G'day viewers, today I'm going to refine some jewellery. Now this is a combination of things that I already had as well as some items that were sent to me from Mark. You'll remember Mark in one of my last videos. He's a viewer that sent me some things and didn't want to be named, so rather than just call him a viewer, I've named him Mark. There are some other things he's also sent that were coming up in future. So what we have here is a piece of a silver bracelet that was given to me, and some little pieces of silver from bits and pieces laying around that I've melted. There's another piece here. This is a stone out of one of the things that's no good to me. Now some of these rings, most of these rings do have tiny little stones in them, really small, and I can't figure out how to take them out, so I'm just going to collect them afterwards. There's hundreds of tiny little stones. I've tried picking them out. It's just near impossible. So most of these were sent by Mark. There's another piece of silver here, a little bit, and this here is gold and silver. It's a little pendant, silver in the middle, gold on the outside. So I'll have to take that silver into account when I weigh it and work out the amount of gold. Now these are a mixture of 9 carat and 10 carat. Now there are times where you can put 9 carat, sometimes maybe even 10, straight into solution and they will dissolve. But other times they don't, because when they say 9 or 10 carat, it's only a estimate. There's no set amount of base metals to be in there, so it could be as low as, like the 9 carat could be as low as 6 or 7 or 8, and it could even be a little bit higher. So it's only just a base estimate. Now I've got some other little pieces of gold here, like an earring back, a bit of a broken link, and a little pendant of some sort. So I'm going to weigh it all up, work out how much silver I need. There's another piece of silver that I've melted up, so I just grabbed a whole pile of silver filters laying around, melted them for the silver for this process. Another piece of gold here, just a little piece of broken clasp or something. So I'm going to put them all on the scales, and I've got to take into account that some of the weight will be stones, like in that. And a lot of you who watch the eBay refiner will know that he has all these weird measurements and calculations, and like, I'm not good at maths and I don't understand his calculations. I don't think for starters that it needs to be such a complicated task to find out how much silver you need, and I'll explain that in a second. Alright, so we're starting off with 31.8, which is basically an ounce, and if I take into account the stones, I'm going to call it 30 grams. Now, because it's already around about 30% base metals as an estimate, and you need it to be 25%, I would say half of that weight, if I halve that, say 15 grams, and put 15 grams of silver in, then I believe that that would be enough to lower the quantity of base metals in there to a point where it will definitely dissolve. I do need to be careful not to go too far, because then it will just dissolve into gold powder. I do kind of want it to stay gold clumps. Given the fact that there's some silver in this pendant here, I'm going to do a little bit less than half. I'm going to do 10 grams instead of 15. So I'm going to add 10 grams of gold, 10 grams of silver, to this to enquart it, and that should be roughly how much silver I need in it. so that I can process it. So put all those over here for now. Get all these little bits of silver that I've got laying around here. A bit hard to grab some of these. And what I'll do is I'll cut up some of this bracelet, because that bracelet will be well and truly too much. Yeah, way too much. So I'll start by taking off the chain on one side, measure that. I may need to take a couple of links off, and I'll keep the rest for another inquartation. Okay, so I took one of the chains off and I put it onto here with this extra link that was on it. I mean, that's how it was when I took it off, and it came to 11 grams something. I took off one link, and then when I put this on here, it comes to 10.5, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to inquart that 10.5 grams with all that gold, and it should be enough, not too much, hopefully, to be able to process it without the gold powder without the gold turning into powder. We'll see. But basically, what I normally do is I just work out half the weight of whatever gold I'm doing, and it usually turns out fine. Just in this case, with all these stones and the silver that's in here, I've had to just reduce it a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, I'm not really sure how well you can see this. Usually when I work under this patio, it's too dark. But in this case, the sunshine is streaming in onto this. So I'm hoping you can see it okay. And I've got a container of water down here to drop it into. Get the gas mixture right, and start melting. We've got a graphite rod here. There was a parrot clasp on that silver bracelet. It may have a bit of spring, a bit of steel spring. I didn't see one in there, but obviously there would be for it to work. So that may present a problem. I may have to pick that out of the solution later on. Oh, whatever that was, it made me jump. Something crackling on the end of the graphite rod. So I want to get it into a pool of melted metal and stir it and stir it and stir it, so I know that it's all fully blended properly. Some of this is melting a lot easier than the rest. There's a lump of something on top there that just doesn't want to melt. I don't know what that is. I've not seen that happen before with jewellery. Putting the heat straight on it and it doesn't want to melt. It's weird. Oh, the acid was sorted out, whatever it is. So I'm just giving it a good mix now. There's 2 clumps that aren't actually dissolving, aren't melting. I don't know what they could be. It's weird. There's definitely no steel there. There were gold jewellery and silver jewellery, so I don't know. Like I said, the acid was sorted out. I'll just twirl this around and make sure that I get it all. I don't know if you can see those lumps in there at the back here. They won't melt. Even when it's mixed in with the molten metal, it still doesn't want to melt. Can't for the life of me figure out what that is. It's weird. And I'll just give it a bit more of a stir around and make sure that it's all properly blended. Geez, I can't talk today. I'll keep those parts that didn't melt, I'll keep them on top of the solution so that they pour into the water without sticking to the melting dish. And I'm fairly certain that that's stirred enough. So now I'll make some shot. No, they've stayed in the dish. I don't know what they could be. And there's lots of little tiny balls of silver or gold in there as well, which are being stubborn. And I'll try and work those to the edge if I can. They're slowly moving. I'll have to pick these things out because they're just not flowing. See if I can get them to come up to the edge. There, now I can pick them off. One. Two. All right. Gas off. Store it in a safe place. Now, let's see what we got. I'm trying to pick up some big pieces to show you. There's a few small ones in there. There we go. Now that looks to me like the perfect colour. It should be nicely melded together properly, stirred up well. Okay, so one of those things that I saw looks like a stone. That's one of the things that wouldn't melt. That makes sense. And there's probably another one in there. It's probably still in the pot. So these can go in here. Just make sure I've got all the gold off me. This is going to need to be poured out and rinsed well to get the tap water off. I want to thoroughly remove all the tap water and then rinsing down with distilled water because I don't want any silver chloride to form. Okay, so the other thing that was in there that wouldn't melt is, like I thought, another piece of stone. Didn't look blue when it was on the melt dish, but they look blue now. There's just a little bit of gold stuck to it. So I'll have to fiddle with that and get that off. No, I think I might have got it. The gold that I just put into the plastic container, I've tipped back into here so I can rinse it. I don't know why you can see all that. There was a bit of dirt in the pot, so that's got to be rinsed out as well. I thought it was clean, but obviously not. So I'll give it a good rinse in some distilled water. I'll pour this off. I'll do one more rinse because by then definitely all the tap water would have gone, and be left with what we're going to process. Okay, so I've got a beaker here that I pour all this into. Make sure I get all the little bits of dust at the bottom because there were some really tiny pieces of gold that formed little tiny balls when I put it into the water. Make sure I get all this out. My water dish, my water spray bottle, squirt bottle I should say. Give us a bit of a squirt. Okay, so there's what we're left with, and I'll tip this water out, and then I'll put some, actually no, I need to have distilled water in anyway, so I'll just leave it in there, and I'll put some nitric in, put it on heat, and start dissolving the base metals. Okay, so I've got the hot plate out in the open so I don't destroy the patio because all the fumes up under the patio weren't doing it any good. I've got distilled water in there on the hot plate with it's on a mild heat, just slowly warming up, and I'm going to put some nitric in. Doesn't need to be any certain amount. There's a lot of people out there that are doing videos and they're trying to calculate certain amounts, which is a waste of time. Just pour some in. I'll end up using it anyway, and when I get to the point where there's no more base metals and there's active nitric in there still, I'll use that for dissolving some copper plated stuff I got. So there's no need to worry about any certain amount. So for now I'll just let that react. Once the reaction stops completely, I'll be back. Okay, I poured off the nitric solution, which I will now recover the gold, silver with some copper, and look at the gold. Beautiful, chunky, just how it's supposed to be. So I'm going to put a little bit more water in there and some more nitric. The reason I'm not just adding nitric to that solution is because I want to know if there's any more colour coming out. I've rinsed this thoroughly, so now put some more water in there, and if I even get the slightest hint of blue, I'll know that there's more copper at least coming out. I won't be able to tell if there's any silver coming out because there's no colour to that, but if there's copper there's probably silver. I've got some silver plated copper, which I will put into here, and if there's any active nitric in there, it'll take care of the silver that's on the coating, and then the copper that's left over will precipitate out the silver, cement out the silver. So now I'll put that on heat, and give that another run. See if we get any more base metals out. Okay, I had it boiling for 2 hours and it had been turned off and cooled down now, and that's all that was there, the slightest little bit of blue. Nothing else came out, so I'm fairly confident that most of it's out, if not all of it. I'll give that a rinse, and I'm pretty sure it's time to go to Aqua Regia. It doesn't really matter if I get every single piece out, because I've got some gold that needs to be refined anyway, and this is going to go with that and be refined all together. So I'll just give this a rinse out now, and I'm good to go. So I'm glad it's all stayed clumped together. That's perfect, it's how I wanted it. Alright, so pour this off. Okay, now I'll put some Aqua Regia in there and start dissolving it. Okay, here we go. So I'll start with some hydrochloric acid. Just enough to cover it, there should be plenty. And a small squirt of nitric acid. I mean, there's a fair bit of gold in there, so I can give it a decent squirt, but that's all for now. And I add more as I need it. You definitely don't want to do any measurements, you know, like ratios 3 to 1, like that's garbage. You don't do that. That leads to trouble if you're a new person to it. If you're not new to it, you still end up wasting nitric acid because you end up denoxing. It's just so much easier and cheaper and better to add as you need it. So now I'll put that on some heat and let it dissolve. I'll come back in about 15 minutes. Okay, all the gold is dissolved and I've taken it off the heat and put some ice in there. The ice is made from distilled water. That'll cool it right down. If there is any silver that I've missed, it'll drop out of solution when the solution gets cold. And once that's dissolved, the ice cubes, I'll come out with some SMB, put it in there and drop the gold. Okay, so the ice is dissolved. I've got some SMB which I've tried to dissolve. Most of it has. A few chunks in the bottom won't matter, they'll dissolve in the Aqua Regia. So pour this in. Beautiful colour change of that. Nice. That's a textbook drop if I've ever seen one. What an awesome drop that was. Beautiful. Nice brown colour. Right. Let's leave that to sit. And collect the gold when it's settled. And it's only been an hour since I dropped the gold. And look how good it's settled already. It's not often that happens. That is some good gold drop. There's nothing left in suspension, it's all down the bottom. That's awesome. So it's getting a bit late now anyway. Even though it's all well settled, I'm just going to leave it overnight. Come back in the morning, pour that off and give it a couple of washes and melt it up. Alright, it's the next day. And before I pour off that solution, let's do a quick stannous test and make sure I've got all the gold. So I'm just getting my stannous ready. Alright. It's a definite negative. No more gold in solution. Alright, so now I can pour it off. Put this in my paper storage, I'll do that later. Try not to stir up the gold. Looks like it's all falling to the bottom quite nicely, or falling to the corner. If some of you are wondering why it's been so long since I made a video, I was down with laryngitis. I had a cough. I've been coughing for 2 weeks now, and I actually lost my voice at one stage, so I couldn't have made a video anyway because you wouldn't have been able to hear me. You see it's all clumping up nicely in there. You always want to pour off your gold wash solution into another flask or beaker to store it, because any remaining gold that hasn't fallen out will fall out in there and you'll have it settle at the bottom. And I've got a kettle full of hot water here. Give it a rinse. I'm not going to go through the whole wash process because just like with my last few videos, all the gold is going to be refined in one hit in an upcoming video. So I could let all that fine gold settle, but it's alright. It's only a slight bit of fine sediment. A nice lump of mud down there, looking quite nice. So still not quite over the cough. Look how well that settled. Nice. Yeah, I'm still not over the cough, but at least I can talk now. I'll give it one more quick rinse and then I'll put that into a melt dish to melt it up. And we can see what we got. Oh, excuse me. I like it when it all clumps together nicely. Look at that. Beautiful. Looking good. I can see a couple of little stones in there. One there, from the jewellery. And there was a lot of them in the melt dish, stuck in the borax. But that's okay, they'll get filtered out. If they combine with this when I melt it, then when I dissolve it next time they'll get filtered out, so that's not a problem. Alright, I'll go and get my melt dish and come back. So in the past people have commented on my bench and how cluttered it was, and I've told you that I'm trying to sort out a better system. So you can see I've emptied off a lot of this bench, and I'll show you where it's all going. So I've got this table here with some frames at the back of it, shelving. And this is where so far my bulkier items are going, mainly my big bottles of acids and my furnace and my paper storage and other things that just need a place for it. And then there's this bench here, my gold wash there, some silver coated copper which I've got the solution in from this jewellery, some other copper that I had laying around, This is some powder that needs to be melted. It could be all kinds of things in there. So my melt section set up here, and some stuff in the bottom I've got to test to see what that was. I had copper in there, and I don't know what that is. I've got to test it and see. But this is the area that I've got to work with. So I've got to try and make sure that it stays organised. There may not be enough light in here, so I may end up doing some things out on the table out there, or I may shift things on the corner here where there's more light and do some things here. That we'll find out in the future. Okay, so I've pipe headed all the water off, and now it's time to see how much we got. Just heating around the outside also helps push all the gold down into the middle. Just use the very tip of the flames to sort of dry it out a bit. It shouldn't blow out. That's why I like melting wet gold. Really need to find somewhere where I can do this a lower bench, because I have to hold the flame up high, and this thing gets heavy after a while. So I've only got it on a low heat at the moment. It's actually putting out a lot of carbon, so I don't really want carbon all over my melt dish. That's better. It's made all my melt dish go black. Yeah, I can see it shrinking down now, so it's drying nicely. What I'll end up doing is, I don't know if you can see how black the dish has gone, so I'll end up putting some more borax on there, heating it up and putting borax on and seeing if that gets rid of the carbon. Try and get it nice and clear again, because this is a brand new melt dish and these big ones are expensive. I probably should have used this one from melting gold once before, but I wasn't thinking when I put it in here. Yeah, it's starting to melt nicely. Looking good. I know you guys probably can't see in there, but those little gold balls are formed. And they're slowly starting to coagulate into one nice big button. See if you guys can see that. I'll come a bit closer. Once it forms one bead, one button, I'll then move it around the dish to try and get all the little beads that are catching on the side. There we go, it's all one big ball now. It's hard to tell when it's all red what's actually a stone and what's a piece of gold. You just get all these little red glowing things on the dish. I'd say they're all stones. Looking good. I'll try and catch it on the side where there's no stones and get it to sit there if I can. Alright. Let that cool for a second. And my tweezers broke, so I've only got these to pick it up with. So it might not look the best. Might have a little squeeze mark on the side from the drawers. I don't know if you can see that cooling down. Nice little button there. There we go. Beautiful, nice gold button. And I didn't actually prepare some water to cool it in. That wasn't very smart. So what I'll do is I'll get my milk dish, watch glass, sit that on here, put some water in it. There we go. That is a nice gold button. It's not as pure as I would like, which is fine. It's going to get purified anyway. It's glossy, but I wouldn't call it a mirror finish just yet. It will be when I'm done with it. So now it's time to go and weigh this and see how much we got. So I'll just go inside and weigh it up. Okay, I hope the lighting is okay. I hope you can see this well. It's a nice button for sure. So we ended up with, from 31 something grams, 11 grams. So half of it was base metals. Nice. And then I've got some other gold in here from all the different jobs I've been doing the past few videos. So I'll be putting this with that, and that's going to be coming up in a refining video. So I hope you guys liked that video. I've had some really nice comments. I mean, people outstand me with all these really good comments they give me. Very much appreciated. Some people have constructive criticism, which is fine. I don't mind constructive criticism, like how they're saying my bench was all cluttered and all that, and that's fine. I don't mind that sort of thing. Occasionally you get a knob end that has something nice to say, but that's all right. There's haters everywhere. So keep the good comments coming. Take the bad ones to someone else's site, and I'll see you in the next video.